everybody, and welcome to the 90-day book launch. I'm Eva Nattiello, the author of the New York Times best-selling psychological thriller, The Memory Box, and I'm also a self-publishing and book marketing consultant, helping authors to launch their books into the world and increase visibility and readership. Let me just make sure that I am live, hopefully. Psychological thriller, The Memory Box. Yikes. Anyway, for the next 90 days, I'm going to be sharing with you. I'm going to be sharing with you a behind-the-scenes look at what goes on in self-publishing a book in real time, daily, until November the 16th, which is the release day for my newest psychological suspense, Following You. So why am I doing this? Hi, Jane. Hi, Laura. Two reasons. The first one is, like every other event that has been canceled during the pandemic, all of my workshops and master classes at writers' conferences have been canceled or postponed. But people are still publishing books. Since I'm launching my own book in 90 days, what better time to share the actual process of preparing a manuscript and marketing your book for launch than right now? Two immersive workshops that I've created and facilitate are Self-Publish Like a Pro and Find Your Readers Book Marketing Workshop. So I'm going to be combining aspects from both of those immersive workshops into my daily Facebook Live talks with you for the next 90 days as I launch my book, Following You. So whether you're joining me live or watching this in taped video later, please feel free to comment. Tell me what you're working on. If you're a writer, what genre are you writing in? Where are you in your process? Are you trying to traditionally publish? Are you trying to self-publish? All of this is really good information, and it'll help me to know how to talk about my process and what will be most helpful to you. Some of you are readers and you're really curious about how to self-publish a book or how a book gets born into the world. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here too. Please tell me what you love to read. Hi, Mimi. Hi, Stephanie. I'm so glad you guys are joining me. I'm going to try and answer any questions that you type into the comments. If they pertain to today's topic, I'm going to try and answer them today. If they don't pertain to today's topic, I'm sure in the next 89 days they will. So I might save them for a later talk. So hopefully that's okay with you. I'm also going to be choosing some of the comments or questions to talk about in a fuller way, either here on a thread on Facebook and also on Twitter. So you can follow me there at Eva Nattiello. Hi, David. So why don't we get started? Day one. I'm so pumped. Okay, so this is it, guys. This is what it takes. You have a manuscript, and I'm going to talk personally a lot because I am going to take you through the process that I've been on with Following You and where it is right now. So right this moment, Following You is with a proofreader who's putting the super shine on. hopefully when I get it back, it'll be dazzling. But so this stage, when it's at the proofreader, it's the very last stage before it gets published. What has led, I'm going to talk a little bit about preparing your manuscript, getting feedback, whether that's through readers or editors, And just to give you a little bit of what, happened before the 90 days so that you're on track or you know where you should be when the time comes. So let's talk about manuscript feedback. And there's a number of ways you get this feedback. Like I said before, it's either through readers, whether those are beta readers or sensitivity readers, or whether it's through editors. And there are many different types of editing that you can choose for your manuscript. It depends on what you're seeking. It could be a developmental edit, a copy edit, a proofreader. So let's go back to that stage where you've written and completed your manuscript and you've taken it as far as you possibly can on your own. It is as strong as you can possibly get it on your own. What do you do now? I get this question all the time. What do I do now? I did all the hard work. Now what? Okay, this is what you do. It's time for feedback. Now, some people will, they have writers in their life and they will give, hi Lisa, thanks for tuning in. They will give their chapters maybe to some writers in a writers group, for instance, to give some feedback as they are writing and as they are moving forward in their manuscript. Not everybody likes to do that. Some people actually are completely secretive and write for themselves and get it to a place where they think it's really, really strong before they seek feedback. I understand that completely. So let's say you're there, okay? You need feedback now. What, where, who, how? Who do you turn to? So I believe, hi Doris, the first step is to select a group of people called beta readers. These are people you choose who are going to give you some critical feedback. You're going to give them the whole manuscript. They're going to read it as if they're reading a book, a novel that they bought at the bookstore or they took out from the library. I suggest, well, I'll tell you what I did with my first book, The Memory Box. I chose about 7 or 8 beta readers. Half of them were readers, people who eat books for breakfast. I wanted people who read 2 books a week, voracious readers in my genre. That's super important. When you hand it over to a reader for feedback, if they're a beta reader, choose people who read in your genre. You don't want to write a romance and then give it to a sci-fi reader. They may not understand what you're doing with the book. And so you want people who have read millions of romance books before you've given it to them, okay? So I gave half of the group, so I'd say I gave maybe 5 readers my manuscript. I actually also did not want to know any of them. I wanted super frank, honest feedback. It does nobody any good, right, to get feedback from somebody who's going to say, it was great, it was fabulous. I mean, we want to hear these things, but we also, at this stage, we need to know what's not working, right? Because you can fix it. You have time to fix it. So I sought out people through friends who read psychological thrillers, who would read my book and give honest answers to a series of questions I gave them after they read the book, not before, because I didn't want them thinking about the questions. I wanted them to, hi Diane, hi Cheryl. I wanted them to be thinking about the book, the characters. I wanted them to get lost in the story. Then once it was over, I provided a list of questions. Now you can Google, what questions should I ask my beta reader? I suggest you do that. But one of the things I think is a good idea is to ask them about the things you're most vulnerable about, right? This is the time. You're nervous about something, like a scene perhaps, or a character, or dialogue. What's your Achilles heel? Do you know what I mean? And then ask them about that. This is the time to get that frank feedback where you can make some changes before you go to publish. The other group of beta readers, so half of them I chose readers, half of them I chose writers. It's nice to get writer feedback. people who understand how to put a novel together or a nonfiction book. At the end of the day, when you get all the feedback, it's your prerogative in the end, of course, to determine what of the feedback is going to make your book stronger, right? That's why you did this. What's going to make it the best book it can be? Now, you're not going to agree with all the feedback. Do not feel as though you have to apply all the feedback. That is ultimately up to you. But I will say this, if out of 8 beta readers, 7 of them bring up the same issue, you need to listen up, okay? And you need to consider it and see, should I change this part or this character or what have you? Once you get the feedback, decide what you're going to apply, do a revision. Now it's time. Now it's in an even better spot, right? It's in a better place. It's super strong. You've gotten some critical feedback from writers and readers. Time to go and get the book copy edited. And this is a person who you've hired, okay? If you're self-publishing your book, you do not have a team who you can call up and say, time to copy edit my manuscript. These are people you have to hire. I recommend you finding the best editor you can, for your budget, and discuss with them, and this is also a good idea, go out to maybe 3 or 4 copy editors and ask them to do a sample edit. Most editors, freelance editors, will do that. They will give you maybe 3 pages or 5 pages. Choose the same 3 to give everyone, because you'll want to compare who is savvy with a comma. That's always my problem. I never know where to put them. Or who's savvy with grammar or whatever you're looking for, or who understands your style too of writing, because we all take liberties, right? As writers, we're not always writing in full sentences, for instance. You don't want your manuscript to come back and for everything to be, full sentences and no fragments, and you've put a certain kind of voice into your book, and you want the editor to get that, to understand that voice. So get the feedback from these sample edits, choose your editor, hire them. Once you get their feedback, it might take 3 or 4 weeks for them to edit a manuscript. Then again, it's your prerogative what you keep and what you ignore. It will take a couple of weeks, possibly, for you to apply these revisions. And then once you apply the revisions, you then go to a proofreader. And that is the final stage. I mean, your manuscripts should be super duper tight at that point. You've gotten feedback, you had beta readers comment, you had possibly, we didn't talk about sensitivity readers, but also that's a good idea if you are writing about characters who are not own voices. Perhaps you have characters in your book or themes in your book that are not written from your own experiences that you would like to get some feedback on. That's when you would hire a sensitivity reader. So you've got all kinds of feedback. You've got your readers, beta readers, sensitivity readers. You had an editor look at your book and give you their comments and suggestions, and now you're in proofreading. That's the final touch and the final look. And when you get that back, you're going to choose, in most cases, you'll choose all of the proofreader's comments because they're not really, at that point, subjective. That's really an objective analysis. I always tell clients of mine, authors that I work with, at workshops, at writers' conferences, when you self-publish a book, you get to pick and choose how you do it, right? You have the control. However, there are 2 non-negotiables that I believe you must do in all circumstances, and that is hire an editor, a freelance editor, the best freelance editor you can afford, and hire a book cover designer. Those 2 professionals, you want them on your team. and you do not want to send a book into the world that's not been professionally edited or professionally designed. That is my best advice. So let's see, do we have any questions? That's my spiel on feedback and preparing your manuscript. Okay. Oh, Robin, hi. There's so many people here. Thank you so much for coming. If you think of a question having to do with manuscript feedback, editing, or readers, feel free to leave it in the comments, and I will try to answer those today before we move on to our next topic tomorrow for day number 2 of the 90-day book launch. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope to see you tomorrow.